In this video, we're going to talk about getters. So getter is very powerful feature in LWC and we're going to use it a lot in real-time projects as well. So first, what was the need of getter? Actually, we need to understand when everything was there, track was there and other properties were there, be able to render the data in the HTML. So what was the need of the getter? So let's see the problem first. So in the first diagram, on the right hand side in JavaScript, I have an array of values and I have some other properties, that is like num1 and num2, which has value 10 and 20. If I want to execute expression in the HTML, it was not allowed in LWC. And in the starting video itself, I told you like you can't run the expression, you can't run the array expression as well. You can run object, but array or some operation you can't perform in the template. So if there is a case where I need to do some multiplication or something, how I'm gonna achieve it? To solve this purpose, we come up with a getter. What getter said, you perform in JavaScript your operation, I'll bind your data back to your template, and it automatically bind it. You don't need any action or anything to update this. As soon as a particular value change, it keeps an eye and it update the template. And getter always start with a get keyword. So if in a method you append a get keyword in front of a method, it become a getter, and getter always returns something. So remember these things, like getter always a method that is append by a get keyword, and getter method always returns something, and getter is used to show a manipulated data or a updated data on the screen. So let's go to our code and try to understand the getter. So now I'm in my VS Code and I already commented out the codes to get a better clarity. So above code is for first data binding, second one is for @track. Now we're gonna learn getters. And to learn the getters, what I'm gonna do, I'll create another card. I'll just copy paste the same card below and I'll remove everything from the center. So we have a lightning card. I'll say getter demo, and within this we have a div that is giving a margin around our card. So to understand the getter, first understand the problem that we were facing. So let's say I have a property called users, and that users containing a list of names. So John, Smith, or I can say Nick, or some names are there. And the requirement is to print the first name on the screen. So how I'm gonna do that? So usually what we do, we have the power to directly embed the properties. So I'll say users of 0, because 0 index I need, and it immediately throws an error, invalid expression, template expression doesn't allow computed property access. So this we can't do actually. Let's see the other problem. I have another property called num1, I have number 10, I have another property num2, and that is 20. And on the screen I want to show the multiplication of these two properties. So what I can do, as we know, we can embed the property directly, num1 multiply by num2, and this is also not allowed. So how I can achieve this problem? One way is like you can create another property and then you map that property like user first, and then you'll say this dot users of 0, and you start creating those properties, and that too will only update once, right? So to solve this problem, we come up with a getter, and getters are the methods that help you to render a customized or a manipulated data on the HTML. So let's create a getter. So I'll say a method name. First we'll create a method, first user. Suppose I create a method first user, And to convert this method into the getter, we need to use the get keyword in front of the method. And now our getter is ready. So this method is a getter method now. And as I said, getter always returns something. So in return, I'll say this dot users of 0. So automatically John will come on the screen. So I'll go and bind this method on the HTML. Binding is similar. So I'll say first user. So I can write first username is John will get print automatically. Let's solve the another issue, the number. I'll say get multiply and will return num1 multiply num2, and as we are referencing the properties, it should be start with this and now it automatically update here. So let's change this method on the HTML as well. So now you can see we can write multiplication of num1 and num2 is this. So let's deploy this and see how it works. Same command sftx force source. So now it's get deployed, and in our page you can see it's printing first username is John and multiplication of 10 and 20 is 200. So this is how getter works. And the other benefit, like many people might think, like we can do the other way, like I create a new property like this dot first name first user, and I can map it like this dot users of 0. In this case, the problem is whenever the user dot 0 value gets updated, you need to update your this dot first user again and again. But in getters, whenever the value of users gets updated, first user automatically re-render in the HTML. You don't have to explicitly update the first user again and again in terms of getters. That's why we prefer getters for any validation checking or any string or any class appendation dynamically. Anything that you want to do dynamically in HTML, you always go with the getter. Other example that you may face in the real time, like if you want this user 0 to be in uppercase, so you can use to uppercase and you can append this method directly. So whenever the user comes and print on the screen, it will be uppercase. So let's deploy this and see. So there are many things, any JavaScript operation you can perform in your data, and that data you can directly send it to HTML. And anytime the property gets updated, automatically getter will update it and it re-render our component and print the updated data. So let's go on the screen now, refresh this. So now you can see John is printing in all capital letters. All caps are there. So this is how getter works. In real-time project, you will see the actual benefit of getter more. So, but I told you the difference why we are preferring getter over updating the individual fields. The reason is individual fields you need to update every time explicitly. But in terms of getter will automatically re-render and check the or track the properties value that has been changed or not. Okay. So now we have learned the getters. Now we know how data binding works, how method works, how data flow from JavaScript to HTML and HTML to JavaScript. So in the next video, we'll talk about conditional rendering. I'll see you in the next video.